All right, everyone. Good morning. We're at Tuesday morning. From the morning briefing from the Celtic Way, and we're looking ahead to Club Brugge. We can firmly chat about it now, guys. Tony's here, and of course, with it being a Tuesday, Kevin is with us as well. Hello, Kevin.
Good morning. How are we all?
Very well. How are you?
Yes. I remember I was chatting to somebody last week who was expressing a bit of concern about this very intensive next couple of months, beginning with a potentially tricky away fixture at Tynecastle. And I'm looking at these fixtures and I'm saying this is what it's all about, difficult grounds, good teams, 3 competitions, Hampden, the Gers, happy days.
Yeah, it certainly feels like kind of good days, exciting days. Looking forward to our 5th Champions League game tomorrow night, Tony, and it's promising to be a great night. I'm really looking forward to the game and a real opportunity for the team to back up that Leipzig game, I think, and prove once again that we can play at that level and also flourish at that level.
There's something mystical and magical about hitting that 10-point mark, isn't there? Don't know how many points you'll need to get through or qualify, but if you hit the 10-point mark, you know you're going to be there or thereabouts. That's the stick. That's the carrot that's being dangled in front of the Celtic players tomorrow night. If you can wake up, as I said, on Thursday morning with 10 points from your first 5 Champions League match, you'll feel very good about yourselves and you'll put yourself in with a realistic chance here of not only qualifying for the from 9th to 24th, but you could put yourself in with a chance of automatically qualifying for the last 16. We'll all need to see how that pans out over the next 2 days of fixtures, but concentrate on your own job. Don't underestimate Club Brugge. We didn't underestimate the task that was facing us against RB Leipzig. Don't fall into the trap that caused you taking a heavyweight out, that you could beat anybody. You have to turn up and perform to beat anybody. Club Brugge are coming on the back of a 7-0 victory domestically at home. Again, you don't know the strength of the Belgian league, but they're coming in fine fettle. They're coming to try and do a number on you as well. They'll have watched Celtic making waves in match day 4 and think, okay, let's see what you're made of. So just treat this game with the reverence it deserves and the competition with the reverence it deserves as they have so far. But you just feel that if they play anything like they did against RB Leipzig, it'll be a difficult night for Club Brugge.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. I think it's an interesting point on the whole, is there any complacency amongst the squad? Is there any complacency amongst the Celtic support? I must say I've not detected any of that from anyone. Yeah, I've not come across anyone, certainly in the Celtic support, who's going along tomorrow night and expecting it to be easy. I think we all know that Club Brugge are probably a pretty similar level to us, and I think it's going to be a pretty even game. But equally, Kevin, it's a game that you think if we play the way we did against Leipzig, we'll have a pretty good chance of getting a win.
Yeah, I think so. I've got a couple of misgivings. Yeah, of course it'll be tough if you've got one of the top sides in Belgium. It's going to be tough. I still think there's a little bit of not complacency, but maybe false optimism, which started when the draw was made, and people immediately looked at that game along with the young boys game, Slovan Bratislava, as being the ones that would be eminently winnable. Celtic have played Belgian opposition, been drawn against Belgian opposition 4 times. Ekeren in 1990, I think. Ghent, 1984-85, the round before the infamous Rapid Vienna, and twice against Anderlecht in the Champions League. And we've prevailed on each of those occasions. But looking at this Bruges side, and what they've already done, their performances already, not just domestically, but in Europe, leads me to think that this is possibly the strongest Belgian side we will ever have faced. And that includes Anderlecht, who are the perennial heavyweights of Belgian football. But they don't, in recent decades, they don't travel. But I just get this feeling this Bruges side is up there with the side that got to the Champions or the old European Cup final against Liverpool in 1978. And if we get a win, any sort of win, it'll be on a par with beating Leipzig. That's how good I think they are. They ran Borussia Dortmund close. They beat Aston Villa, albeit Aston Villa inexplicably chose to drop 3 or 4 players and gave away a comic goal. And they played well against AC Milan, down to 10 men. So, I'm not taking in. It's winnable simply because of our performance against Leipzig, but only that level of performance or better, I feel, will be good enough to beat Club Brugge.
Because Leipzig, I think, were really desperate coming to Celtic Park because they needed a result. It's going to be interesting to see if Bruges feel the same way. They've obviously got 6 points banked already. They're looking to get another 4. And I think they've got some Man City and Juventus and Sporting Lisbon are their last 3 games after us. So they're probably looking at this game as being a game they certainly can't afford to lose to have a realistic chance of making the top 24. So again, that could play into our hands. They're clearly a good side, Tony. I'm looking Conference League last season, semi-finals, beaten narrowly by Fiorentina in the semis. Year before, they made the last 16 of the Champions League, going out to Benfica. Year before that, they were in the Champions League. Year before that, they were in the Champions League group stage. Year before that, they were in the Champions League. Year before that, they were in the Champions League. So they've got real Champions League experience.
They have a decent recent European pedigree. And then going back to the 70s, as Kevin said, like 70s, when they had a side that reached the old European Cup final. So they are perennial performers in Europe. And if anyone is thinking, I don't imagine any Celtic supporter thinks it's going to be easy on Wednesday night, because it will be far from it. You're in a right game here because it is 2, I think, similar teams in terms of what you said earlier. So this is a knife edge stuff. But again, Celtic have set that bar with the RB Leipzig performance. You have to replicate that. And that's, as Kevin said there, that's the only performance that will be good enough to see Club Brugge off, because I think they're a very accomplished team. We know they've got players that can hurt Celtic, but conversely, and I always say it, Celtic have got players that can hurt opposition as well, as they showed in RB Leipzig. And we're talking about that second goal that Celtic scored right on half time, Nicholas Kuhn. It's probably the goal, we spoke about it, that pleased Brendan Rodgers the most over his 2 spells as manager, because that's your tactics coming to total fruition there, and everything that you teach the players about the high press, winning the ball back, winning it high, and then being clinical. And it was great to see Celtic be able to do that on that stage against a team of that calibre, because normally that's what happens to Celtic in these situations. So it was a great role reversal. And so that's what you're looking for again, Hamish, that intensity, those levels. And again, I know supporters don't score goals, but they play a huge part on tomorrow night, a huge, huge part. And they'll be there again in the numbers. And let's just see if Celtic can replicate it. You've got every faith in the players and the manager to deliver. But the Celtic fans will deliver, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make about replicating it. That Leipzig performance was brilliant. Clearly, it was a great performance from the team. Didn't feel to me though like that was a performance that was like an otherworldly performance. Like that felt to me like the kind of performance that this Celtic team is capable of and can replicate. So that's, I think, why we're feeling so excited. It's not like it was a one-off and you go, right, we're probably not going to see that level of performance. that's what I'm hoping and expecting to see on Wednesday night. Just a few comments. Gordon, morning guys. We need to start fast tomorrow night to try put them on the back foot early on, get the crowd going and feed off that energy. Don't give them a minute to think. Wazza Boy similarly saying high press and high tempo, good passing will have them worried tomorrow night. John saying if we get the win against Bruges, we're almost certain to get the playoff pressure off in the last 3 games and we can really go for it. What a place that would be through effectively with 3 games to go. It would be ridiculous. Hazel reckons we have to be better at the start of the game than we were against Hearts. Need to be playing quicker. I think we will see a quicker Celtic. I think that was the first game back away from home. I think the team are going to be right up for it tomorrow night, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with you what you were saying, Hamish, about that level of performance against Leipzig. You know, it's not a one-off. I think, as I'd said in a previous podcast, in the last 3 years, there have been elements of that quality, bit by bit, increasing. You know, first half against Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk away, which I thought, you know, we should have won. Still gives me regrets. Lazio and Atletico Madrid at home, Feyenoord at home, which was a big personal win for me because, like, I finally got that monkey off her back from the 1970 European Cup final. But there have been swathes of play in the previous 2 seasons against the very best, where you could see what was happening. You know, that this Celtic team was beginning to transition into playing that high intensity mode of football that is required at the top, you know, at the top Champions League elite level, and you know, we've increased that, and we saw it come to fruition against Leipzig. We saw it, you know, the defensive intensity and concentration levels that were required to get a 0-0 draw against Atalanta. You know, being able to dismantle a team like Slovan Bratislava, who are probably the weakest out of the 8 teams, but nevertheless, you know, being able to kind of dismantle them like that and show that we were like a class above them, just made you think, you know, there's Celtic are getting the hang of this, you know, and yeah, you know, against Kilmarnock away and Hearts away, you know, we kind of started quite slowly, although with Kilmarnock, I mean, just as an aside, I was writing a feature for the paper about the town of Cumnock a couple of weeks ago, and of course, no visit to Cumnock is complete without going to see their mighty Cumnock Juniors. So I popped down to Townhead Park, and I was quite near the pitch, and they've got an artificial playing surface. It's essential to them because it's a real community hub. It's in use, you know, 6 nights a week. But the first thing you recognise is that, you know, this, you know, Cumnock Juniors had an artificial surface that was far superior to the surface used by Kilmarnock. You know, an SPL top division side, and Livingston, you know, who hope to get back into the top league next season. And, you know, you can't overestimate how much that awful surface at Kilmarnock brings the likes of us, Rangers, you know, other kind of teams that want to play football. Anyway, that was just an aside I had to put in. You know, Bruges will come and they will think they can get a goal or two. They will attack when they can. So even if Celtic do start with, you know, high intensity, the Bruges will think they can nick a goal, and that's the difference between playing against a club like that and, you know, Hearts away and Kilmarnock away, where they're set up quite defensively. Bruges coming on to us will require our passers, to be at the top of their game. And when they are, there will be opportunities to open them up. They won't be facing two banks of four. So Celtic play at the right tempo. If Hatate, McGregor, even, Austin Trusty coming forward with the ball, now that he's playing in his favoured position, he can pick a pass as well. Kuhn, people forget about Kuhn's range of passing. Engels, I think, will play well tomorrow night if he starts. I thought he played very well against Leipzig. And it's because, that intensity and the speed that is required will actually suit our more skillful players. And it seems kind of perverse to say this, but it will suit them much better, I think, than when they play stuffy defensive setups, in Scotland away from home.
Yeah, I mean, that was obvious to me in the Leipzig game, especially in the second half when Leipzig were really chasing the game. Like the joy we had in that second half, just picking them apart. Hatate, McGregor, Alistair Johnson up that right-hand side. It was a joy to watch. And I think if you see us going ahead and getting that first goal tomorrow night, Tony, you could see a similar thing happening, because Bruges will obviously get a bit desperate at that stage.
Ball retention was key against Leipzig. Our ball retention was the best you've seen from Celtic in a European match in a long, long time. And also, patience was a virtue as well. They went a goal down, but they didn't let it affect them. Normally in the past, conceding early has affected a Celtic team. And we spoke about the clusters that they usually concede, 2s and 3s, But it didn't feel like that kind of night against Leipzig, because they were always in the football match. And then they got the basics right. I know it seems ridiculous to say it, but they found a man every time with a pass. It was like clockwork against Leipzig. It worked really, really well. And they beat them. They beat Leipzig into submission, and then they just ran out of ideas and ran out of steam because Celtic was so effective. And you felt that once they got their noses in front, when Kuhn scored on the stroke of half time, that Celtic weren't going to relinquish that lead. That second half wasn't a backs to the wall, worried that they were going to score. You were saying, this game's here for the taking. We can go and win this 3-1, 4-1, whatever. And it could have been like that. So I'm looking for, but even if you have to come back from adversity again against Club Brugge, you have to accept that you're going to have to be patient as well and play your way into this contest. But if you do it with the same style and panache that you did against Leipzig, then you won't be far away. And like you said, Hamish, I think if Celtic can score first, then that will give them the platform upon which to build and take it to Club Brugge. And I'm looking at the guys who can execute a pass as well. The ones that Kevin mentioned, these are all danger men for Celtic and can, Hatate especially, it could be a game for him, with his range of passing and getting it. We can be erratic at times, but, when he gets it right, he gets it right. The biggest dilemma, I think, is the Engels and Paulo Bernardo. Who do you play? And my mind's made up on that. So, I don't know, you were talking about it yesterday, Hamish, but yeah, it's Bernardo for me. But I can understand why people will want Engels, because his best two performances for me have been against Bratislava and RB Leipzig in the Champions League so far for Celtic.
Yeah, he's been really good in the Champions League home games. I think it will be Engels, but
you're not convinced,
clearly Bernardo deserves to feature as well. And as I say, 2 starts out the last 9 games, he's done nothing wrong. So I just think there's been a few examples now, the big games coming round, and Greg Taylor's always in the team for the big games, and Arnie Engels is always in the team. You look back, even when Engels had just signed, remember we had Bratislava, wasn't it? And there was a game just before Bratislava, and Engels was in the team for both of those games. And then it came to the following Champions League games. Engels is in the team. Bernardo is on the bench, and Bernardo comes on and impacts the games. But I think Engels will start. That's my hunch. But we'll wait and see. Does the rest of the team kind of pick itself, Kevin?
Yeah, well, this comes on to another point I was discussing recently with a friend. Yeah, the team, I think that the rest of the team does pick itself. And that's partly due to the fact that, pleasingly for us, we come into this very intensive fixture list this period with no injuries. And we were chatting about how, I mean, again, maybe I've got this wrong, or I'm missing something, but it just seems to me over the last year or two that our injury list isn't as we don't have as many injury absenteeisms. I know that we had earlier this season we had Hatate and Carter Vickers out, but it just seems to me over the last couple of years that when some of our big players have got injured, they're not out for as long. It doesn't happen as frequently. I just can't remember a time when we have had a full fit squad to choose from so often. And I'm just wondering if my friend had a theory about this. He was talking about how he'd heard that at Lennoxtown, Brendan Rodgers has assembled two distinct medical teams. One from Norway and one from America, who he can kind of pick and choose as they determine, depending on what the injury is. I'm not entirely sure about that. My inquiries to that effect didn't really come up with anything conclusive. But there's something going on that has improved, I think, our injury list, or rather reduced it. I don't know if that's something that has occurred to either of you, or if I'm just talking mince.
It's not occurred to me, but when you talk about it, certainly this season, you're always going to have some injuries, but this season doesn't seem like things have been too bad. I think earlier this year, so last season, early this calendar year, I think there was a period when I remember Hatate being out and Carter Vickers being out, and that was when we were really struggling as well. So I think it was amplified. The other point may be that the squad is so strong now that you don't necessarily notice as much if a player drops out, because someone of equal quality, like Bernardo or like McCowan or Valle or someone like that, is coming in. So there may be part in that now, but certainly this season, Carter Vickers been the main one that there's always a bit of chat about, but there's not been too many other ones, Tony?
Yeah, but I think there might be merit in the sense that Brendan Rodgers has probably had a look at that, and there might be some merit in the medical teams that you're talking about, but how can we solve this, or how can we get to the bottom of what were the niggles and what was keeping guys out? Because they're certainly less frequent, aren't they? Or infrequent, like say, so that's good. And I think Hamish says there, you tend not to notice too much because you have an embarrassment of riches amongst your squad. So, which is why you have a big squad. I just don't want to linger too long on injury talk.
What's going to happen tomorrow now, Kevin.
As you were speaking there, Kevin,
finish the game with 7 men or something tomorrow night.
Especially the cup final lumen et al. But yes, I also think as well. See, when you're winning, players will tell you, they're the first to tell you, they don't feel injuries. They walk on the park and there's niggles galore. They just blank it out. But then those are the times when you have to save players from themselves, and risk, further injury or being further weeks out down the line. But players will tell you when everything's going well and there's a happy bunch and you're vying for a place in that starting 11, what previously was a niggle and might have seen you out for a couple of weeks, you just sort of say, I'm okay, I can play through this, because you want to be part of this. You don't want to step out because fine well, if somebody comes in, my yellow jersey theory, they're running with the jersey until such times when, they put a foot wrong, and you can look at Trusty over Scales for that. Right now, Trusty's come in and that's your centre defensive partnership moving forward, isn't it? It might be unfair on Scales, but it's just a fact of life, that's just the way football works. And Trusty has come in and just, has blown everybody away with not so much his defensive stuff, because that's what he is. He's a defender. But you mentioned it earlier, Kevin. His range of passing, when he comes forward, he actually looks quite accomplished and knows what he's doing and can pick the pass and can play it through the lines. And that's what impressed me most. He is starting to look like a £6 million player. These guys don't set the fee, but you look to yourself and you think, right, he's got a bit of quality about him. And Hammond is a very solid. Oh, he's lightning quick, actually.
There was an incident at Tynecastle in the second half where he gave the ball away in the corner of the box, which kind of set up a half chance for Shankland. And within 2 seconds, having given the ball away, my God, he was lightning quick. There he was again, like in less than 2 seconds, helping Schmeichel block the shot. And I'm thinking, how did he get back? I had to watch it back in the replay thing. How did he get back there so quick? And that's that's a massive quality at the top level. So that, not just the speed, but the speed of recovery. And it's a shame for Scales. Football isn't it's not very forgiving at the top level. Scales didn't do much wrong at all. He played at the top of his game week in, week out. It's just that Trusty has just got an extra dimension, which is his assuredness on the ball when he breaks from defence, and just that little bit of extra pace. That's all. But then, Liam Scales just needs to remind himself where he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he's still young, and he's there's still quite a lot to learn. He will not have expected to 2 years ago. He will not have expected to have played the amount of games that he has done between then and now, and certainly would not have expected to be automatically starting against 2 centre halves who were bought for a combined total of more than £7 million. And he's entitled to think, that his time will come again. He just needs to keep working hard. And I think, as each of you have said in previous podcasts, at this level, the level that Celtic are competing in on 3-4 fronts, it's not just a 25-man squad that we need. It's a 25-man squad for everyone as a potential starter. It's not first picks and reserves who come in an emergency. It's a 25-man squad for every single person has a role to play, including those who might not have played for 7 or 8 weeks. That's the kind of difference from an approach from previous years. And that, I think, has also informed our recruitment policy as well. Hopefully, we've seen the back of the projects. We can't be in a situation where we can't be that club that takes a punt on a project and hopes to kind of turn them around and make a quick profit in a couple of years. We're a club now that expects to build a squad of starters, pedigree, and for each recruitment, recruit, a lot of research has been done.
Also, as well, about tomorrow night, Hamish, Celtic are going for I think it's their 5th game unbeaten at Celtic Park, but their 4th win in the Champions League. Now, our recent record hasn't been something to write home about, but it's things like that you you shift your goalposts. You know, so they drew 2 weeks. Atletico Madrid beat Feyenoord, beat Slovan Bratislava, beat RB Leipzig. If you can beat Club Brugge, that's 5 on the spin at that level.
Never have lost to Lazio.
We should never have lost to Lazio.
And that's another one that bugs you, right? So your run could be longer, right? But you say to yourself, well, we've always said in any Champions League competition, to give yourself any kind of chance of qualifying, you have to be solid at home and get something on your travels, which they've managed to do in Bergamo and Atalanta. So, you know, I think that is something that Brendan Rodgers has clearly spoken to the players about and wanted to work on. You know, because Martin O'Neill's team won their first 3 at home in their first ever Champions League campaign and somehow managed to exit on 9 points. One of the few teams to ever exit the Champions League group stage in 9 points. But it brought home, it emphasised greatly the importance of winning home matches and where it can thrust you and put you in league tables. And, you know, I think tomorrow,
yeah,
you get to the 10-point mark and then you stretch that run to 5 games having won that. That'd be 4 wins on the spin at Celtic Park in the Champions League, 5 unbeaten. You know, you start to think to yourself, right, we are getting the hang of playing at this level against quality opposition. And, you know, that is something that moving forward you can really build on and get it back to those days when opposition were thinking, we're in a game here, we come to Celtic Park and not waltzing away with 3 points and then giving you platitudes about how good your atmosphere was. Can't stand that.
I know.
Yeah, you start talking, I agree, but you start talking about positive things.
Yeah.
Prolonging a positive record rather than ending a negative record like was the case last
and stuff
year.
Like that. Yeah. And that's the new spin on it, yeah. That's what I want to be talking about constantly moving forward.
And that must be so much more motivating, having a positive thing to fall back on than, as I say, trying to end, you know, get our first win in 10 years in the Champions League rather than let's try and make it 4 home wins in a row.
You got sick of hearing that, didn't you? It's been X amount of years since Celtic won a knockout game and all that. You know, you were just like, oh, seriously.
It just provided a cheap intro for some of the less imaginative of our print brethren. I thought, you know, rather than some proper analysis, it was right. Let's look at the books and write what we did last week or last month. And it said as much about them as it said about us. So now some of them will have to look for other negatives. Not that I want to be paranoid, you know. And I noticed that in a couple of papers, again, maybe this is just my paranoia, but there was a heading about Club Brugge striker who'd scored, did he score 4 at that 7-0 win?
A Greek guy.
Yeah.
You know, massive threat materialises to Celtic. And it was almost like, is this heading being written in hope? You know, or is that just a kind of simple statistic you put, you know, in the middle of the copy? You know, who's that heading for? Is it for us, or is it for people who are actively seeking a Bruges victory? But no, I agree with you. I mean, I've got a bit of kind of, you know, I hear what you're saying, Tony, about, you know, all these superstars come to Celtic Park and say, what a brilliant, you know, it's like a tourist experience, what a brilliant atmosphere. You have to visit Celtic Park on Champions League night at least once. Yeah, it is a bit depressing when you get them all together and think, well, you know, I wish we could back up the atmosphere with the performances, and we're doing that now. Mm-hmm. But you also have to understand that I think that getting players like Engels, you know, maybe even getting good players to sign an extra 1-2 years. Part of what makes that possible is the magic of these sorts of nights. you know, that players. I mean, I keep thinking about, you know, Ryan Christie. You know, I don't care how well his team's doing down there. I don't care who the fact that they're playing the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool, etc. But the reality is that Bournemouth are playing again, playing in front of 11,000, 12,000 fans at most, and he will never ever experience what he experienced at Celtic Park. He may, and he needs to do it in the next couple of years, get a move to maybe, you know, Anfield, Old Trafford. But there's literally dozens of players as good as him competing for that transfer, and so, you know, you can't, you know, the Hollywood atmosphere has its place, but it's, as you said, it's far better to back it up with that recent run of results.
It's going to be rocking tomorrow night, and hopefully the team can back it up just like they did against Leipzig, just like they did against Bratislava. Feeling good about it. We've still got another video tomorrow, though, to properly preview the game. We'll have press conferences later today.
Yeah, 3 o'clock. The manager and a player will address the media. It's usually Callum McGregor, isn't it? It's normally the captain, but it might be
maybe Engels.
It might be Engels, yeah. Could be Engels. Engels did it before. He did it for the opening away Champions League in Dortmund. I'm sure he did it then. Yeah, listen, we'll hear the manager's thoughts later on today. It's always good. Christos Solis was the man you're talking about, Kevin, the Greek striker who scored 4 at the weekend against St. Truden, I think it was they were playing. Listen, he's a very good player. I think people will have seen him play well for Greece against England at Wembley recently when they won there for the first time. So, yeah, we know that. We know that they're capable and they're a threat, but so too are Celtic. So we accentuate that. But yeah, look, can't wait. I wish it was tonight. I prefer the Tuesday night Champions League match.
Yeah, you said that.
I hate having to wait till the Wednesday. Maybe it's just me. I'm impatient. I want to play.
Worth the wait.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Okay, we'll head off for now. Everyone will return tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. I was just checking the subscriber count there, 12.4k, so it's going up rapidly. But if people are watching this and realize right now I haven't yet subscribed, please click that button. It's very easy, and maybe we can get to 13k by kickoff tomorrow. Might be ambitious, but let's give it a go. It would be much appreciated, everyone, if you could subscribe. Okay, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch up with you this time tomorrow.